Hello. I haven't seen some of you for probably a year. I may have seen some of you over the course of the last week, but for those of you that don't know me, my name's Ben. My surname is ridiculous, but if you take the space away and put the two together, that's my Twitter handle, and my ego really does enjoy it when people tweet at me, so please feel free to do that at any point between now and the day that I die. You can tweet at me after I'm dead, but really you'll just be rubbing it into my grieving family. A little heartless, but hey, I just took a selfie with you all, so no coffin selfies. That is now in my last will and testament. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how being a developer does not automatically mean you're a good developer, but that's actually quite a depressing talk title. So my subtitle is You're Amazing, What's Next? I.e., you're already here and doing some cool stuff, and while, yes, granted, we haven't had any presentations yet, I've seen projects throughout the week, and the quality of the stuff that you're doing is pretty fantastic. Pro tip, I've seen developers in app development agencies that actually don't know most of what you do. So, as a bunch of young coders, how many of you in here would consider yourself a young coder? How many of you in here would consider yourself a mentor or an adult of some description? How many of you wandered in, have no idea what this is? Right. This is the world's worst nerd comedy routine. So, over the course of the past week, for those of you that have been following it along, I've been on the road with a team of people wearing these nice Twilio jackets, and we travelled around 3,000 miles. I did this last year. This year I hired a car and didn't sleep in it. And I saw over the course of the last 4 days around 400 of you that were building cool things, working on your projects. And how many of you did I see that is in the crowd now? How many of you came along to... Hey, there we go. It's about 50-50. That's quite cool. And you are all making some projects from hardware hacks to things that make use of APIs to from stuff that's fun, some games, right through to some serious uses of open data. I think someone was talking to me earlier about cheeseburgers as a service. That was quite good. I'm going to invoke the 5-second rule. But I've had a little catchphrase for the past few years, and after a slight legal wrangling, given a recent movie decided to basically make every other word in their film the word that I said every other word in my sentences, I'm at least now allowed to tell you all again that the stuff that I've seen you do over the course of the week is awesome. So you were all awesome, and before I carry on, I want you all to gratuitously give yourselves a massive round of applause for the great things you've done. It's cold. Now, I spent a long time telling people that they're all awesome. And, of course, the reality of that is that nobody is just awesome by default. A couple of you are looking at me like, what are you talking about? Of course not, look at me. No. All of you that are here have put a lot of hard work into getting here. You've put work into the things you've been doing. And all of you, in your own way, are incredibly awesome. But my talk isn't about telling you that you're all awesome this year. I want to know whether you think you can be awesomer. Now, in preparation for this talk, I checked Google, and apparently awesomer doesn't exist. Urban Dictionary to the rescue, it apparently does. So it's the same website I learned the word selfie from, so I think we're safe. There we go, Modern Day Oxford Dictionary. So, can you be awesomer? How many of you in the room is really proud of what you've done this week? That should be all of you. Nobody in here with self-esteem issues. Well, that's great. How many of you in the room also think that you could push yourselves to do better? Okay, hands down. One more question for you. How many of you want to be a software developer? Wrong. You're already software developers. You have written software this week. You have written code. That makes you a software developer. So what's the difference between young coders and software developers, other than most of the time the fact that you get paid for doing it? Well, I started looking into this in more detail because really you're not just software developers. You are software developers that are going to be working as software developers for a lot longer than someone like me. Some of you have got 1 or 2 years of extra lifespan than I do, and for each bite of this I take, it goes down significantly. So you can all be awesomer, but I was thinking about the fact that you're the future of the industry, which in some ways is really comforting, in other ways, having met some of you, very scary. But the thought struck me that not only are you software developers, and not only do you have the opportunity to go out and build awesome things, but the entire direction that the technology industry heads in, all of the things that happen from now until the day that I die, all of the big technology decisions that get made are going to be made by you. And all of the latest innovations, all of the big new pieces of technology are going to be made by you. And it then struck me that there's a fundamental problem with the way that we talk about software developers. How many of you in here would say you want to be the next Steve Jobs? That's nice, because okay. So you've all kind of proved my point for me, and I don't need to carry on this talk, which is amazing. But so many people I talk to say, yeah, I want to be the next Steve Jobs. I want to be a rock star developer. I want to be a developer ninja. I'm a superhero. Because adult software developers paint this image of software development as really glamorous. How many of you have sat there looking at your code this week going, ah! That's not because you're a young developer, that's because you're a software developer. It just happens. How many of you adults in the space of the last week have looked at code and gone, ah! See? So I wanted to point out the difference between a developer and a good developer. And a good developer isn't a rock star. What's a rock star? Sorry? Other than that rock star. Ironically, when I Googled for Rockstar images, that logo did first come up. But what's a rock star other than a company that develops games? An energy drink. And who said brand names were important? So rock stars are typically people that make music and get quite famous for that. They create often one song. That song never has to get updated or patched. They can go out and repeat that song countless times, and people, for some reason, will enjoy it over again and again and again, and never turn around to the singer and go, you know what? I think that in the second chorus, maybe, if you added a lens flare and a scrolling marquee, this would be loads better. When you're a rock star, people don't turn around to you and say, this song's really good, but I think that my nephew could probably do that better and for free, so I'm not going to pay you for it. And in this economy of apps we have, nobody turned around to a rock star and said, we won't give you a contract because we can probably just put a 99p up on the app up on the App Store, and some people will download it and that will make us a bit of money. Software developers are not rock stars. They're better than rock stars because you have to do so much more as a software developer to make a difference in the industry you're working in. So that's a rock star. For me, a good developer and someone that I personally look up to a lot is someone like Sir Tim Berners-Lee. Someone who had an idea and started building that idea, and he didn't just create a song that a bunch of people have enjoyed for a number of years. He created the World Wide Web. He created the platform on which people can download songs that rock stars build legally. So if you think you want to be a rock star developer, what you're basically saying is you don't want to be as good as Sir Tim Berners-Lee. And I'm sorry, all of you in here have the potential to be better than Sir Tim Berners-Lee. He invented the World Wide Web. These people, cheeseburgers as a service. I thought about ninjas as well. You're not a ninja either. Ninjas stick to the shadows and kill people. Software developers are often the most bullied people inside an organization because everyone wants to blame the software developer. I used to work at Microsoft, so sometimes I know that's justified. But as a software developer, you write code, and people go out and use that code, real people. Not just people in odd kind of 80s B-movies. Every time you write a piece of code, someone uses that, and that person is completely different to you. That person has a completely different life to you. You're touching people's lives. Software developers in the 21st century have their work seen by more people than artists and filmmakers combined. The things that you do, even the websites that you make, the silly little things that you put together that seem like fun, could entertain someone the other side of the world and make them smile. That's the power of being a software developer. You're not a ninja. You don't stalk the shadows. None of you are really that graceful. I hope you don't own any really sharp swords. No hands up. You don't need to be a ninja. Software developers are visible from what they do, from wherever they are in the world. And that's amazing. And someone who I think has done a really great job of that, someone that I've had the pleasure of working with recently, is a chap called Max Little. You might not have heard of him, but the stuff he's doing is amazing. He started out doing a bit of research into Parkinson's disease and realized that Parkinson's disease is something that gets worse over time, and you can start to detect Parkinson's disease by tiny little vibrations in muscles in the body. He realized that the vocal cord, the thing that I use far too much, is a muscle. And it's one of the first things that gets affected by Parkinson's disease. And he then thought, well, I'm a software developer. What if I could work out a way to detect those tiny changes in vocal muscles, in your vocal cords, by the way that someone sounds? And then he found an API, I got that in there somewhere, that lets you record people's voice calls. And so he took a test that cost $40,000 every time you wanted to do it, and turned it into a 30-second free phone call, and using software and a bit of imagination in about 3 weeks, developed an entirely free test for Parkinson's disease that is 98% accurate. That's what a software developer can do. That idea is no better or worse than any of the ideas that you've come up with this week. You've had all of the same technology available to you. You're not a ninja. You're not stalking the shadows. You're changing the world with silly little ideas that you have sometimes often come to me in the shower in the morning. I'm singing, I come up with an idea for something. Tiny ideas can change the world. That's what you're doing here, now, and every day that you come up with an idea from here. You're also not superheroes. Now, I am a fan of Iron Man, and I often have a debate with people that Iron Man is the best one. He has no powers, but he has a cool suit. So that's why. And a bit, yeah. I think it's more just Robert Downey Jr. than Iron Man that I like. But so that aside, you're not a superhero because coding is not a superpower. You're not superheroes. You're not being turned into superheroes. There's no radiation in the building. Young Rewired State's not some massive government experiment to try and expose you all to radiation to grow your brains. Really hope that GCHQ aren't listening to this. The power that you have inside you, this superpower that so many people say that young coders have, is nothing more than your imagination. You as superheroes, all that is your own ingenuity, your own imagination, and your own drive. How many of you got into coding because it was something you were just a little bit interested in? Okay, you are superheroes, but not superheroes in the Marvel sense. That's just who you all are. If this was the X-Men, you would all be mutants and proud. That was a great film. Anyway, I'm distracted. But what that means is that every single one of you, with all of your different unique perspectives on life, all of the different things that you do and you care about, from cheeseburgers to helping people to issues around the way that people are treated in the first world and the third world, through to all of the issues that everyone faces every day in their lives, you apply that superpower to it. And you look at it through the lens of software and you start thinking, well, hang on a minute. I like technology. Technology can help do cool things. It can help fix people. It can help make people's lives better. This robotic arm was developed by a student who was 15 years of age. He bought cheap hardware components, wrote some clever software, and did some cool stuff with it. Back when I worked at Microsoft, we released the Kinect SDK, and I saw a bunch of people doing really cool things with it. We had students that were taking Kinect into their schools and letting people interact with sign language in new and interesting ways. People look at things through the lens of their own life and build something on top of it, and that's the awesome thing that you do. So you're not rock stars, you're not ninjas, you're not superheroes, you are young developers, software developers, and in my opinion, the greatest single category of people to lead the future of the world. Everything you do is going to shape the future of everything everyone else does. And the start of being in this room with all of these other people is the start of something amazing. And before I finish up, I want to ask you a couple of questions and hopefully leave you with a tiny bit of advice and E. coli. Who do you want to be? A superhero. I am Iron Man. If you want to be a software developer, then be a software developer. If you realize that actually software development isn't the thing that you care about and you want to go off and care about building a business and earning lots of money, then great, go and be an investment banker or one of the hundreds of millions of people that call themselves entrepreneurs. Someday I'm sure they'll make some money. If you really want to be something to be proud of, think about who you really want to be. Don't be Steve Jobs. Don't be Mark Zuckerberg or Tim Berners-Lee. Be you. Be a person in your own right. And think about the amazing things that you have done, will continue to do, and want to do moving forward. The 3 bits of advice I have for you before I leave is to be yourself with absolutely no compromise. Over the past few years, I've met a good number of you. Some of you that have gone on to be mentors, some of you that started out being really young and inexperienced, and every year have come back and shown the amazing advancements that you've made. I'm proud to know so many of you because you are yourselves. You are unbelievably unique people, and long may that continue, because the last thing I want to use is another generic piece of software, another generic gadget written by a generic group of people who think that life is quitting education or doing whatever they want to do, following in someone else's footsteps, releasing an app, calling themselves an entrepreneur, and then saying, hey, this is me, aren't I brilliant? What I want to see is all of you saying, hey, these are the things in life that I love, and these are the things that I want to go and do. I want to be a software developer. I am a software developer. I'm going to go and build things. Don't compromise on that if that's something that you want to do. Now, my second piece of advice I've stolen from someone that I look up to and respect an awful lot. This is the doctor's catchphrase, or motto. I've shamelessly stolen a quote from Doctor Who, but I thought it was quite relevant. Never giving up and never giving in is really important and incredibly underrated. If there's something that you believe in, something that you're passionate about, and something that you want to do, nobody on this earth has the right to tell you that you cannot do that. If you want to be a software developer, you are a software developer. There is no if, no but, no you're too young to do that. You go out there, you build software, you pester companies if they're not helping you. And I say never cruel or cowardly. I'll take some questions at the end. I say never cruel or cowardly because so many people now think that competition amongst developers is important. We all see people like Google and Microsoft and Apple consistently implementing features that another company has implemented and doing it in a slightly different and better way. We all see, know, or are on some levels fanboys to a particular piece of technology. And doing that, living that life, is not being a software developer. It's being a fanboy. And if you want to be a fanboy, go do that. That's fine. But that's not a software developer. Software developers care about whatever people want to use their stuff. They care about the users, not the platforms. Don't be cruel or cowardly about it. Don't bully people into using one platform, one browser, one operating system. Don't bully people into doing things your way or no other way. Do things in the way that you want to do, and don't take no for an answer. And the last piece of advice I have is be honest. It's often overlooked, but if you want to do something, be honest about it. If you don't want to do something, be honest about it. If you want to do something and you aren't sure if you're doing it the right way, be honest about it. There's no such thing in life as a stupid question. Every single one of you this week has had to ask someone a question whilst you've been coding. I guarantee you that that will never stop. You never get to a point where suddenly it's like, hey, I'm not a young coder anymore, I'm an adult, I don't have to ask any questions anymore. 90% of software development is asking Google. 95. How many of you adults in the room have written a piece of software and not checked the internet for something? Exactly. We have a world of resources at our fingertips, and everyone in this room is an amazing person. Use that network, use those people. But you know what? Don't try and claim you've got the best app ever. Don't say that your idea is revolutionary. Don't start going on about the fact that you are the next Steve Jobs. Don't call yourself a superhero or a rock star or a ninja. I would not be any more proud of anyone in this room if you turned around to someone and said, I'm a software developer. That's what I do. Let me talk to you about this idea I'm working on. Here's how you can help me. Because that is the difference between a developer and a good developer. And I think that you're all good developers. Good developers change the world. And as I said before, you're the future of not just the world, not just the technology industry, not just apparently the projector turning off, but there was a lovely picture up there and everything. Good developers change the world, and I'm not going to say now it's your turn, because let's face it, you've been doing it for the past 6 years of Young Rewired State running. The world is a different and better place because you've all been in it for the past few years. So I'm going to finish once again by saying, please don't applaud me. I just stand up and sit here and eat cheeseburgers. Please stand up and give yourselves a massive round of applause and have a great weekend.